friends, we are back with another exciting episode of Between the Sundays, and I'm here with the Reverend Michael East, who preached an awesome sermon on Sunday, though he doesn't believe it. It was great.
Really funny.
No, it was very good and thought-provoking. And you're not your best judge on this matter. The people who heard it are. So I heard it. And so we started this sermon series for is it 3 Sundays in November?
It's just three.
3 Sundays,
Because
yeah.
Advent comes early this year.
Right. So 3 Sundays in November called Shared Stories.
Yep.
And we're actually preaching from the lectionary, that 3-year cycle of stories that we tend not to do. We tend to do sermon series here.
Yeah.
And you started this series off with a doozy.
Yeah, I should have actually looked what the lectionary was before we planned out this series, because I cracked open the lectionary and thought, oh God, really?
Yeah, live and learn.
Yeah.
So the text, there were 2, very difficult texts to preach on. One from Deuteronomy, one from Luke, that have to do with the kind of the Jewish understanding back in the old days of when a brother dies, that his brother should marry the wife,
Right.
to continue the family line.
Yes.
That's kind of the Old Testament passage that underpins all of this. And then you move to the Luke text, where the Pharisees and Sadducees have this difference of opinion when the Sadducees bring to Jesus this kind of impossible, ridiculous scenario.
Yeah.
Say a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, and so like for folks who are going to go back and watch worship or the sermon or whatever, it should be pointed out that Gay, our lovely liturgist for Sunday, read what she was given to read, and she read it beautifully. The preacher of the day forgot to put a 2 in front of the 5 because it actually comes out of Deuteronomy chapter 25, not out of chapter 5. So Gay wrote this really great piece of like the 10 Commandments, and that was not the intended text for the day. But yes, if we had read what the preacher was supposed to write down for us to read, it would have been this Hebrew law about continuing the family line. But jumping forward to the gospel, Jesus is like, for this entire chapter, and just like constantly finding himself in pickles. The Pharisees are asking him questions that are meant to trap. Right before we get to the reading for Sunday, they ask him, should we pay our taxes to Caesar or not, which puts him in a bit of a pickle. And then the Sadducees kind of take their turn and ask this question about this woman who's been married 7 different times, in heaven, whose wife does she get to be?
Yeah.
Which there are, I mean, as I mentioned on Sunday, like there are issues of, sexism, patriarchy, women as property, a whole hairball of issues that need to be untangled with this parable they put in front of Jesus that quite frankly, we just don't have time to handle in the context of a sermon. But yeah, so I think Jesus handles it pretty masterfully.
He kind of sidesteps that whole weird bundle that they gave to him, sidesteps it and moves to kind of this understanding that, in the age to come, we're not going to be worried about who we're married to or relationships that we've known here on earth, that in the age to come, there are bigger things to think about.
Right. And what I really actually like about this passage is Jesus does kind of take a side in this argument. Is a lot of preachers will want to say, like, he finds a third way. He really doesn't. Like, what he tells the Sadducees is, your question is really stupid because the Pharisees are actually right about this. Like, there is a resurrection, and hint, hint, I'm going to show that to you in a couple of weeks. But he takes the side of the Pharisees because this didn't make it into the sermon, but Amy Jill Levine, fantastic Jewish New Testament scholar, says, like, because Jesus is a Pharisee.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day,
He
aligns most theologically with the Pharisees. And so for him to deny the Pharisees kind of in this particular argument negates a lot of what he will continue to do. So he does take the side of the Pharisees, but then, as you said, like he also zooms the picture out wider
Yeah.
than beyond just this little squabble between two different Jewish schools of thought.
Right. Right. So you say in essence that Jesus says to them, you're thinking too small. You're thinking too small about this. So say a little bit more about why do you think you focused in on that particular that part of the text, but also what piqued your curiosity about what Jesus kind of implies there?
Yeah, I mean, I think within the church, but also kind of in our own lives, we ask the question of what can I do and not what is possible. We have this kind of thing that Jesus pushes back against. It's like we have this kind of like small-minded, small scope of what we think we can actually do. That's I'm reading a book right now from the woman who Hedley and Bennett. They're like those really fancy aprons that you see on like all the cooking shows, and they use in like really fancy restaurants. But she starts just thinking like maybe I can just make like a couple of aprons for the people I work with in my little restaurant. And now it's like this multi-billion-dollar apron industry. She's an apron czar. It's wild.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? And that'd be a great title for that sermon. Is who would have thunk it? Is what is actually possible is far beyond what we think is like in this moment. So that I think that's what kind of brought that to the top of my mind, and this thought of like what is possible in this age, or what happens in this age doesn't necessarily happen in the next age, but what happens in the next age is totally doable right here and now if we just expand our thoughts, one, on what's possible, but then also just do it. That's like I rattled off kind of a list of things, like is when forgiveness is offered before it's asked. Like that's a sign of heaven coming close, of the resurrection being near. When powerful people choose humility over just more wealth and power, that's a sign of resurrection coming near. And then the one that I'm really big on right now is like just choosing hope for just today, for just one more day, rather than giving in to grief and despair. Like that is heaven coming close to us. And every day we are given reasons to give up.
Well, and so why do we choose that more often than, because I think we do. I think we choose giving up or not even starting versus imagining what can be and moving in that direction.
Yeah, I really like two immediate thoughts. One, that is the water we swim in. News, algorithms, headlines, whatever, is all like here are all the bad things happening. And the more that we swim in those waters, the more that's what that is just like suckiness. So we have to break out of that. We have to find the good. That's one of the cool things that came out of COVID. Was oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Chris, you probably know. Jim Halpern from The Office. What was that actor's name?
John Krasinski.
Yes, John Krasinski started this.
Why did you assume Chris knew that and that I would not know that?
Because I know Chris has watched The Office.
I love The Office.
Oh, okay, great. Do you know, what's the actor's name, Carol?
John Krasinski.
John Krasinski, yes. He started this, the Good News broadcast.
Yes.
And so like every day he brought you like, here's good news happening in the world.
Yeah.
But if that is the content, the news, the whatever that we consume, it changes our outlook on how things are. But because that's not what we primarily consume, we just assume that all the world is just bad news. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
The other thing is like, it goes back to the possibility. We just don't think it's possible. What can I do in Norman, Oklahoma that will have a profound change on the world that will provide hope? Like, there probably are things I can do, but the default thinking is like, oh, little old me. And what Jesus says in this passage is like, actually, no, like there are things you can do now. There are, Eugene Peterson's The Message paraphrase says, there are better things to think about. And that's one of the things that really stuck with me and that I'm carrying into this week is that there are better things to think about. And there are better things to do than simply sit in despair.
Yeah, which I think requires us to kind of take a leap of faith. I mean, it is really easy to continue to swim in the waters in which we are
It is easy, yeah.
versus swimming against all the stuff coming towards us. And I think also finding some support for thinking and moving counterculturally. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than being the only fish, to continue this metaphor, the only fish swimming in the opposite direction of everybody else. That's a really scary position to find yourself in.
Yeah. Which, going back to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, that's a really important point for those Pharisees, is they interpret Scripture as a group together with the hope of making Scripture something practical and usable today. And I love that. Not many preachers will say they love the Pharisees. I love the Pharisees. I think they're great. But that emphasis on like, it's not just a me thing. It's not just a you thing. Like we do this work together to make it real and tangible and impactful right here and right now.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
So what are some practical first steps if we want to move together as a community into the world to do those new age kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think is just like find the good. What are those better things to think about that Jesus suggests? And that may be, just turning off the news. It may be finding people to follow on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever that provide hope and good news and good content that's not just this continual pit of despair. And then also, I think it's just share it. Remember, we talked about this in our last series on kind of stewardship and belonging together is like part of it is telling the story, telling the good news. So like on Sundays when we share, like so-and-so's birthday, it's our anniversary, it's, my kid won an award.
Right.
That's not just a chance for us to like brag. It really is to lift the whole community into a sense of goodness and hope, and then be sent out into the world as we celebrate together. So find the good stuff and then bring it back for the rest of us.
I think that's awesome. I think that comes from a really well-preached sermon on Sunday.
Well, I think it comes from Jesus, so
Yes, it does.
bit of an authority on the matter.
Yes, it does. So I think that's a great place to end.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Thanks. I like our new digs here.
Yeah, I do too. I think I don't know. It feels really nice. It feels like we're being embraced
Oh,
in this place.
sounds like a good sermon.
Yeah, it does. Okay, friends. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.
See you next week.
Bye.
Embraced.